Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. Okay, give me a second. Let me go ahead and make Yogeshwar the co-host so his sound improves. Okay, all right, wonderful. Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. We are going through the Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 7, Dhyan Yoga. We have already covered verses 1 through 6. After the reading, we will have Yogeshwar talking about the verses from 7 to 14. Then I will make my comments. Then I will open it up for anybody who's familiar with this text to talk. And then I will open it up for everybody. So we'll do that in stages, all right? Thank you very much, Penny. Now it is Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, please go ahead.
जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः. So whether there is cold or there is hotness, or there is happiness or there is sorrow, or even though honor comes, or is it dishonor? In all these different situations, a person who has gained self-control, he has Brahma, he will attain Brahma. Such a person only will attain Brahma. Now, there are 2 points here. If we attain Brahma, we get such bliss that whether happiness comes or sorrow comes, we are not moved by it. And there's another perspective. If we get there, we attain Brahma. So in these 2 perspectives, it is like one and the same thing. It's just going towards one and the other will happen automatically. It doesn't need any efforts after that. So if we are working towards Brahma, we are going to get this automatically. And sometimes what happens is we get the concept of Brahma, the all-knowing and the oneness within ourselves. But sometimes we also, there's some times whereby there are milestones on the road, and then they're pointing towards the place, and they're saying that there are 10 kilometers to go. Sometimes we see the name of the place we are supposed to go to, and we feel the place has come. So that doesn't happen. They have said that when you are in such bliss that happiness or sorrow does not move you, you are focused, you are integrated, so nothing else moves you. That's when you should know that Brahma, I have become one with Brahma. I have received eternal bliss. Until then, we are all on the way and we have to get there. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriya Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi Samaloshtasmakanchana. So even in the 5th chapter, we had talked about different types of samatva. So first thing is, it is not looking at people at the same level, making them, if there's a rich person, you should treat him the same way as a poor person. No, but you should be able to see the Brahma inside them. That is the integration. That is the samatva that is being talked about here. And another point is between living things and non-living things. So in chapter 5, we had talked about living things. And in the 9th verse, they're going to talk about non-living things. But in verse 9, they're going to talk about living things. So in verse 8, they're talking about non-living things. Samaloshtashma kanchan. So whether it is a stone or is it gold, both of them are the same for you. You know, there is one part whereby you know that a stone doesn't have the same value as gold. That we know. And there is also another aspect to it, whereby if you look at it from the perspective of creation of Brahma, it is a manifestation of Brahma. And Brahma is within it as well, as it is within me. At that point, you look at a stone and you look at gold and you see Brahma within them. So that is the oneness they're talking about here. And so who is such a person? He is a yogi. And how does he become a yogi? Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. A person who has known all the concepts to be known. And then he has experienced all the concepts. He has experienced it, all those concepts, just in this life. So when you experience Brahma, you are tripta. Tripta means you are full. There's nothing else for you to get now. Anything towards the world, including your five senses or your mind, which is running towards the world and is not fulfilled. So all that, you'll see a fulfillment within yourself, and you do not have to run towards the peripheral so that you can get some happiness from there. But you are self-fulfilled and you have all the happiness within yourself. So such a person, kutastha, that means he is just unmoved. He is unmoved. And whether anything happens to the body, since he is separated from the body, he is always immovable. He's not moved by anything that happens at the peripheral. Vijitendriya. So such a person will not have his senses running outside. He will be able to control his senses, not in a way that we look at it like controlling our senses, not allowing them to go outside. But the point here is, even though you allow them to go outside, they will always want to come back to Brahma. You will want to put them outside and they will come back to Brahma. That is how Vijitendriya is. Like you, even though you walk in this world, your senses are always clinging back to the center of your core. So such a person is a yogi. Surin mitraryudasena madhyasthadveshya bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. So who is such a yogi and how are his qualities known?
I think there is a problem with Yogeshwar's internet. Okay, let me talk a little bit about these three verses while Yogeshwar comes back. So first, I want to talk about the concept of samatva. And second, I want to talk about how Naneshwar describes this state of your attention coming back to the center. As Yogeshwar was saying, the samatva, that equality, the best way to understand this is namaste. You're saying the God in me greets the God in you. So you are focused from the God within you to the God in the other person. You're focused on the core of the other person. You're focused on the Atma, the soul of the other person, and your relationship with the other person is based on that. Because it is the soul, because it is the Atma, it is the same, regardless of who the person is. You're focused on their core. And that equality is the equality of the core of human beings, which in Gita is extended to living beings as well. So that is the concept of samatva. The way in which Jnaneshwar talks about this coming back, let me check with Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, I'm just commenting briefly, and I'll hand it back to you, okay? Okay.
Sure.
So the way in which Jnaneshwar talks about the state that Yogeshwar was talking about is, Jnaneshwar says, is that a yogi is so much in love with Atma Tattva that his natural tendency is to live there. And, Yogeshwar used the Sanskrit word trupta. Trupta is like fulfilled, satiated with this deep satisfaction. It's like a pool of joy, pool of bliss at the core of your being. And you want to live there. So it is not as if you are saying, no, I don't want to go there. You're attracted to other things. It's just that you're aware of the other things, but your attention naturally comes back through the love of the center, not because, and it happens sahaj, very easily, very simply, without effort, because you are in love with your Atma, with your core, your own principle. Okay, so those are the 2 points I wanted to make. I also want to give a little bit of introduction. So we're going through these 3 verses about samatva, and then the verses from 10 to 14 are the most important. They are the beginning of Dhyana Yoga. They are beginning of the idea of concentration, which is one of the greatest ideas that India has to offer. So please take your time, please listen carefully and focus on it. And we're going to spend as much time on it as we need today. Even if we don't go any further than this, that is fine. But try to get it as much as you possibly can. Part of it is that it can be gotten fully only through experience. So we're going to be talking about it, but the only way to really master it is through experience. I'm deliberately not talking about Jnaneshwar's commentary on it, because Jnaneshwar has expanded this commentary like 30 times on this section, because he's actually showing you what it means to be doing meditation in such a great detail. And you really need to be doing practice in order to, experiencing it and practicing it in order to get those things. Okay, so we're going to finish this 7 to 9, and we're going to continue on to 10 to 14. So as Krishna says, something is being said, please pay attention. Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
I'm sorry for this internet disruption.
No problem. At any point there is a problem, it's my job to step in and fill in. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and they're talking about a person who is a yogi here, and sadhushvapi cha papeshu. Even though a person does wrong to him, or a person is good to him, he can see Brahma within both of them. Yeah, it is not about saying somebody is good or somebody is bad, but you can see the Brahma within them. You can see eternal life. You can feel the life force within them. because you are one with your center, with your core, and you know your life force. So you can see the life force manifest within the world as well. So such a person will experience samatva. He will experience how everything comes one. And this concept of Advaita, there is no two. Now, the concept of Advaita is really good because they're not saying it is one, yeah, but they're saying that it is not two. Because when, like, you see, the experience is what is the main thing. You experience it as one. And that is the main concept here. You experience Brahma in everything. So, Shrikant, do you have any comments, starting comments for 10 to 14, or should I just dive in?
No, please go ahead. And whatever
Okay.
comments I have, there won't be many, but I will make them at the end after
Sure.
you're done with 14.
Sure. Eka yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi sthitah ekakiyat chittatma nirashira parigraha. So such a person. Now, here it is written satatam atmanam rahasi sthitah. Now, you can run parallel concepts here. Yeah. One concept is for a person who is going to go into a cave and he's going to do his sadhana, he's going to attain Brahma from that place. Yeah. So ekaki, he is going to be alone in that place. And yatachitatma, whereby he is going to control all his senses. In a way, he has that much energy and he can control his senses towards his core. And nirashi, aparigraha. First, now the first point given here is nirashi. He does not want anything. And then aparigraha, meaning he does not collect anything. Normally, what we do is we do not collect anything, but we still want it. So the first concept here is nirashi. He does not want anything. And then he does not collect anything because he does not want anything. Now, the second concept here is the other concept we could make out of is we can stay as we are, yes, and we can still be alone in a way. Even in public, there is a concept of being alone whereby you can control all your senses so they come back to Brahma. And you can see that even though everything is happening in the peripheral, you are alone at the core, at the center. So there can be parallel concepts going on through this. Some use the abstract concept of being alone even though you're in public, but the concept here is Dhyan Yoga. So Dhyan Yoga would suggest that you go to a place which is very clean and even pavitra, which is going to be said ahead, that how should that place look like? Sucho deshe pratisthapya sthiramana samatmanah natyuchritam nati nicham chailajina kushottaram. Now the first point here is sucho deshe. So a place that is clean. Now normally clean would mean just clean of any impurities. Yeah? But in Indian philosophy, clean means clean of any bad energies as well, any bad thoughts as well. Because as we know, in psychology as well, if we have certain types of thoughts whenever we come to a place, yeah? Like for example, if we go to some sacred place every time and we're having good type of thoughts at that place, so it becomes a habit. whenever you see that bliss, it triggers your good thoughts within. So a place that is also devoid of any bad thoughts, whereby when you go there, even your thoughts will always be good. And a place, even though anybody else comes, they will just feel the bliss just by coming to that place. So such a place, which is outwardly it is clean, yes, but even to the thoughts, it provokes clean thoughts, it provokes good thoughts within you. So in such a place, we should keep a still mind, sthira manasa. So such a still mind will bring concentration. Now you can concentrate on anything. You can concentrate on any part of your body, like between your eyebrows, concentration on your heart. So the different types of concentration here that are being said. So concentrate, make your mind still. And how will your mind be still? Now they're saying, Natyuchritam nati nicham. The place that you are seated in shouldn't be so high and it shouldn't be so low. It should be an average place, like a normal place for you to sit and feel comfortable. And then Chaila Jina Kushottara. So first you have the grass, and then on that you place you place the mrugcharma, the skin, and then on that you place a cloth, and then you sit. Now there are so many factors in here that are playing role, because you want to concentrate all your energy towards one part, towards one thing, either one part of your body or one thing outside your body. So to get that much energy and to reverse it in your body, because we always know when we talk, when we see, we lose energy. We are losing that energy continuously. So when we want to focus all that energy that we're losing to one thing, it takes so much of a still mind. And to get to that still mind, even outer factors will be dependent on that. We cannot go to a bar and then we think that, oh, my mind should be still here. A person who is enlightened, yes, his mind will be still there. But as we are progressing on the way of concentration, we cannot start from such a place. We have to get a place where our thoughts are within our control. And then we progress slowly by slowly. So what should we do there? Tatraikagram manah kritva yatachittendriya kriyah upavishyasane yunjyat yogamatma vishuddhaye. In that place, we should try to focus our mind on one thing. And how should we try to focus it? Yatachittendriya kriya. We should try to bring all our awareness that is going towards our mind, towards our senses, and towards our body, to one part of our body or one thing at the peripheral. So that is how all your concentration is made into one line. And how this concentration works, if we could give an example, is right now our concentration is like a river that is split into 20 different channels. Yeah? Now it is bringing those 20 different channels into one force so that we can concentrate all our being into one. And that one force will be substantially greater than the 20 different channels that are going out of the river. Now, the same happens with our consciousness. We are letting our awareness be focused on 20 different things at the same time. So making our awareness towards one thing at one time, that brings the concentration. Upavishyasane yunjat yogamatma vishuddhaye. So what we should do when we're seated on that, in that place, we should do yoga. We should practice concentration. We should practice oneness with that part of concentration we are looking forward to. And why? This is Atma Vishuddhaya, so that you purify yourself as you are, like, because the concept of Atma in Indian philosophy, it could mean various things, totally various things. Your Atma could mean what you are right now, what you feel you are right now, yes. And your Atma could be the core of your being as well. And Atma is also sometimes referred to as Brahma, because you are one with Brahma. So that's when you get one with Brahma, you will know your Atma, which is Brahma. And here where they're saying Atma Vishuddhaya. So what needs purification out of the three? Your core of your being or Brahma don't need purification at all. There's no purification required there. The purification required is at the level of your body, at the level of your mind, at the level of your intellectual. So those need purification. So for the self-purification here, we do yoga. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayanna chalam sthirah samprekshya nasikagram swam disaschanavalokayan. So one important and crucial point in yoga is keeping the tip of your spine, the bottom of your spine, the top of your spine, and your head in one parallel, at one place. Now, what will happen? It is not about keeping your spine straight, because your spine has a natural curve. So let that natural curve of your spine be, but do not give it other unnatural curves. Do not give it other made curves. Yeah. So keep a natural curve of your spine. Yes. And then what the natural curve of your spine does is the energy centers in your body, the chakras that are said, they will be in one line. And that one line enables the energy to travel through it very efficiently. Because if you have even like if you have a very long source of electricity, that it makes the process very difficult. So having it in a straight line makes the process easier. So here they're saying samam kaya shiro griva. So having all these centers, all these chakras aligned in one line makes the process way easier than if they are not aligned. So dharayan achalam sthiraha. So make them aligned and keep them aligned. Two concepts. Make them aligned and keep them aligned. Don't just make them aligned and then like for 5 minutes and then you're gone. No. You keep them aligned. Samprekshana sikagram swam. So in that they're saying we have to keep all our senses in control. Yeah, we have kept now in mostly this is done in Padmasana, because that is where the tip of your spine, the top of your spine, and the head is kept in proper position for this. And since your hands are not going anywhere, your legs are tied between themselves, and your body is totally in one place. Now, what about your senses? Yeah. So about your senses, since you're in such a peaceful place, yeah, the other senses will not run, because there's no noise that is coming in, and there's no such smell that will attract you. There's no such taste that will attract you. So no, the only thing that is there is your eyes. So now it is about controlling the eyes that we have. So controlling those eyes and keeping them in one place, just at the tip of your nose. So that brings immense power to your being, to your concentration. Your concentration improves significantly if you can keep, first of all your senses are in control by the environment. Now you only have to focus on one sense, which is the eyes, and keeping them at the tip of your nose, you gain concentration. This is Cha Navalokayan. So the main point here is not to look sideways, not to look up, down, left, right, center, but just keep your eyes towards the tip of your nose. Prashantatma vigatabhir brahmachari vrate sthitah mana sanyamya machitto yukta asita matparah. Now, another point here is that person gets devoid of any fear. All the fear gets out of him. Now, there are two aspects to this. One is the fear we have right now of maybe losing something we value so much, or not gaining something that we seem value of. That is also a fear. Maybe even losing our lives is a fear, yes. So all those fears are taken care of. We do not fear even death. Another aspect of this is when you have such immense concentration, yeah, there are such energies that come within you. You will know your whole body. So such concentration also brings such immense power, and immense power would also bring a sense of, that person could do wrong to anybody. Yeah. So now Vigata Bhir here and Brahmachari Vratestita, two things here, whereby when he is always on the path of Brahma, yeah, he will not have these fears of getting deluded by the power he gets, the immense power of concentration he gets, because the power of concentration is real. Yeah. So when he gets that power of concentration, sometimes he falls out of the path of Brahma, of attaining Brahma. He feels that the concentration of attained is everything. And then he starts using it in the manifestation, in the world, in the samsara, and it takes him again back in the samsara. So that person would not have fear of going back into the samsara because he's always situated in Brahma. He's always wanting to go towards Brahma. And the other meaning of brahmachari vratestita is the vow of chastity. So now there are two things here. Yes, it has both meanings, but we also need to know how these meanings were derived. So brahmachari vratestita. So one point here of brahmachari vrat is by the literal meaning of the word. It means doing whatever it takes to stay in Brahma, brahmachari, to always dwell within Brahma. Yeah. So doing whatever it takes to dwell within Brahma. That is the word, the meaning of the word itself. Now, why chastity also meant brahmachari? Because the main point here is, all our energies are always flowing into one direction, that is towards the calm, towards that orientation, and it's always toward going downwards. So now flowing all those energies upwards is what we say brahmachari vrate. So now if you are not flowing your energies downwards, yeah, that is, no, you're not breaking the vows of chastity, and so all your energies are going upwards now. So that mere concept of all your energies moving from where they're concentrated downwards, and now they're moving upwards towards your heart, towards your Agnya chakra, towards your Brahmarandha. Now they have to move upwards. Now moving those energies upwards, it needs a lot of power. So that power, it will come. All those energies are moving upwards, and that is brahmacharya. So the power will not be moving downwards. Mana sanyamya machito yukta asita matparam. So that person will have his mind within his control. And now he has to keep always dwelling in Brahma, mat chitta. So keep the mind in me. And such a person is a yogi who is always dwelling within me.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. It was wonderful. I will add just two things, very brief, and then I'm going to open it up for anybody who is used to this, both text and meditation. And then I will open it up for everybody else. Please feel free to ask any questions. Just remain on topic, but you can ask any question that you have. Okay. So the 2 points I want to make is the role of place. Naneshwar spends a lot of time. Uh, just to give context to people who are new, I'm using the commentary by Naneshwar, who is a 13th century figure from Maharashtra. It's like a foundation, who is a founder of Marathi language, almost. I find his commentary, it's very similar to Shankara's commentary, but it is far more integrated in terms of combination of Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. It's primarily Jnana Yoga, but with Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga integrated. It is about 15 to 20 times as long as Gita. And I'm drawing only some things from it in order to add to these meetups. The Naneshwar spends a lot of time talking about the role of the place, finding a place which is serene, calm, natural as a background for meditation. I want to just briefly talk about a place, my favorite place in India. They talk about sacred places. My favorite place in India is actually Golden Temple. For that, one of the friends from America I took there, his observation was that as people walk in, they become children, like ears fall off their face, because the serenity of the place itself is such that it transforms people who walk in. And what Naneshwar is saying is that you use a place which is serene, which is conducive to focusing on the self. The second point I want to make is that this concept of concentration, of directing your attention to the core of your being, to your Atma and to Brahma, is one of the key ideas of the Indian tradition. And that idea, if all you get from all the Gita meetups is that, what it means, what it can do for you, its power, its immediate power at any instance of centering yourself, being able to kind of center yourself, no matter what is going on around you, that power, and what happens to your character when you live there, where that is the home to which your attention keeps coming back. Those are some of the key benefits, as far as I can see, of Gita. All right. So I want to now open it up for any thoughts that anybody else has. Go ahead and type an exclamation mark to share your thoughts. We will start with Jyoti. Jyoti, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Yogeshwar, for the wonderful interpretation and translation. My question is, well, let's put it this way, that as I'm getting to be a person of a certain age, I'm finding the process very easy to do. The concentration comes because of the practice for several years, and I'm able to stay in center, and meditation has become more satisfying than it used to be. My question to you is, I'm drawn out by others in their periphery, not in my periphery. And there are a lot of people around me who don't have a center. Their center is in the periphery. And it is easy for me to pull myself out of that and go back to the center. However, I have to be with them too. I have to help them with what their difficulties are. And whether they will listen to me or not, that is not my problem. But I have to be for them. If I'm not for them, they find me very indifferent. And I don't want to walk around with the image of being indifferent. So, how do you resolve that kind of a situation? Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent question, Jyoti. Folks, if you have questions, go ahead and type exclamation mark. Yogeshwar, would you like to address that?
Yes, so basically, yes, we are centered at our center and we are trying to solve other people's problems. Now, while solving their problems and interacting with them, we should always also know that we should act out of our center, not act out of our peripheral. When we act out of our peripheral, we'll only be able to get to their peripheral. When we act out of our center, we're able to touch them to the center. So any activity that we do outside should be aligned with Brahma. It should be aligned with our center. And then when that manifests outside, it will manifest as an action towards the Brahma within them. And it will always have a good result out.
Wonderfully put, Yogeshwar. I'll just add one thing. Each person, each of us has a center. We have the capacity of acting from the center, no matter what state anybody is in. They have a center, they have Atma, and they have capacity of centering. Just the fact that you're centered is going to inspire people around you to focus more on their center and act more from the center. If you're trying to act from your periphery, trying to push them in their periphery, that is actually less effective than your example of simply acting from the center. Ultimately, that has to come from them. It is each person's center, and that is their center, and they have to say yes. They have to ask from the core of their being. In order to do anything, there is a limit. There isn't much you can do. You can do what you can from the center, and that's pretty much what you can do for others. And the inspiration is very real and very powerful. So that's what I would say. I'm just elaborating on what Yogeshwar said. Next up is Evanik, followed by Ambika. Folks, if you have questions or comments, go ahead and put an exclamation mark. Don't be shy. Any thoughts are appreciated. We want to spend time actually understanding this concept, talking about it. So please go ahead and type an exclamation mark to discuss this. Evanik?
My question is, earlier when Yogeshwar was talking about when you are in bliss, nothing moves you, neither happiness or sadness or anything like that. So I guess my question is like, what does this mean, or how does this happen?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So right now we are acting out of our peripheral, what we know as our body, what we know as our mind. So we are acting out of our thoughts. We are acting because what happens is our thoughts are not still. We shall have one thought and then another and then another. And even our senses, they attract to different things at different times. So when we're acting out of the peripheral, yeah, these are, we shall always be changing. We shall not keep as one. Yeah. Now, when you identify yourself as something else apart from these two things, your mind and your body, if we can get to the point whereby you are not attached that I am the mind and my thoughts are what I am, through practice that comes. So, and what I'm getting attracted to through my senses, even the senses, I am not. So how that comes, and then you realize that I am totally different. I'm separate from these two things. That is when the concept of center is brought. And when you are separate from these two, the body and the mind, when you are separated from both of them, you can, like, for example, if, you know, before in India, we used to have these wheels on the carts, yeah, the bullock carts. So all the wheels, what will happen is in the middle, there's something that is constant. It doesn't move. And then the whole wheel is moving. So the whole wheel is moving on that part that doesn't move. So we will also understand that all the mind and the body is moving, the peripheral is all moving, but it's moving at a point, and that point does not move. So whatever happens at the peripheral, whether it is, we think, our mind thinks is happiness, or our mind thinks is sorrow, or honor or dishonor. So it doesn't affect the core, because the core is always unmoving. It doesn't move in any direction. It's just there.
Uh,
Did that answer your question?
Evanik, that's a great question. So let me take a stab at it as well. That's really the core of it. Like when Naneshwar describes, you know, remember the introduction that I did last time, his introduction to this chapter? He's saying, look, I'm going to talk about something that really can't be talked about. This is like the Tao. This is like Brahma. This is like your soul. That's what we are talking about. And I'm going to do this, prepare this dish for you, so that in multiple ways, with multiple senses, I'm going to try to point to it. And hopefully, as all your senses, your ears, your tongue, your touch, your eyes try to get at the beauty of it, you will see where it is and what it is. So it is about trying to describe the core of your being. It is the same as the Tao. You're trying to say, I want to live by the Tao all the time. I want to be one with the Tao all the time. It is the same as the Holy Spirit in your heart. This infinite amount of love for truth, God, and the world that is coming from your heart. And because you're focused on that, wanting to go in the periphery, both for negative or, I mean, the joy of that Holy Spirit in your heart is so intense. Like Naneshwar describes it as it's having a sun inside your heart. And the darkness melts away. You can't see darkness because you're the sun. Similarly, you feel so much love in your heart that, you know, is your toe stubbing or not, or whether the touch is pleasurable or not, that is relatively small as compared to that experience at the core. And that's why it melts away. It's not that you're saying, no, no, no. you're actually, so it's like you're swimming in this bliss that you do not notice it. Again, all of these are words that are trying to point to this, to the core, this the center axis that we have. And the only way to get at it is to do, and this is the path of the Dhyan. Remember the diagram that I have, there is a vertical axis, which is you're trying to know the Brahma. These are the words that we are using. Then you're doing the action. So for example, preparing the right place, dealing with people according to the highest ideal that you have, is the part of the karma yoga, your action, which actually creates the proper emotional context for it. And then the love itself, the love of the center that keeps pulling you back, that naturally moves you back. So that triangle of knowledge, jnana yoga, karma yoga, and bhakti yoga, you keep doing that. And for each person, the path is different, but it's by doing these things over and over, you slowly, the Atma Mayata or Brahma Mayata, which is like being full of your own core, being full of Brahma, that kind of state begins to, he uses the word prakata, means that begins to rise. It's like slowly coming to life as a result of that. That's the best way I can describe it. But the whole Gita is about just this. Everything else is just about this. If you can understand this, this is it. Okay, and it requires, continuous, all those three things. Trying to understand it conceptually, trying to put it into practice in your life, and actually loving it. Those three things in order to make progress. Thank you, Evanik. Evanik, do you have a follow-up? I don't know whether we answered what you asked or not.
Let me think about that.
Okay, sounds good. You can come back anytime you want. Next up is Ambika, Brian, and Patrick. Ambika.
So a quick point about the golden temple and the self becoming playful, and I wonder if because there's water around it, the whole regeneration. But about the self, the idea that everywhere you go is the self and therefore the center. I don't know if I'd like to hear something about that, because it was something that came up some time ago, and wherever I am is the center kind of thing. So I'd like to hear from Yogeshwar about this, because it's true. Wherever you go, it is a center. Every point is a center. So the periphery is also a center.
Thank you. Yogeshwar, would you like to comment?
Yes, so the periphery is the center, and there's like, if you know how to work with it, that is. But until we do not know how to work with it, we need some orientation towards the center, so that we can see the center within each and every manifestation that is even outside our body as well. So there are two concepts here that talking about moving towards the center, because we are not centered right now. But the concept of the center being everywhere, actually that comes automatically. And that's an experience that you feel. You feel that even though you're looking at somebody else, you see the Brahma in them. Even though you are looking at your thoughts, you see the Brahma in them. You see how they were created by the manifestation of the Brahma, and you can see the Brahma within them. And it's all different ways you can do that, but that actually comes automatically. It is not something you can do. It is an automatic thing that comes out of this. So if you try practicing seeing Brahma everywhere. Like you said, the peripheral is Brahma, so I should interact with it. Yeah. So if we have not found our own center, then even the outside will remain peripheral for us. It will always be the peripheral versus the peripheral. And those conflicts will continue until we find our center and we interact with the center of another person.
Great point, Yogeshwar. I will add one thing. What Brahma is to see the principle operating at the core of things. So there are, like, you think of it in terms of Tao Te Ching. There is the Tao, which is the mother of everything, of 10,000 things. But there are 10,000 things. So when you are at the periphery, there are those 10,000 things. If you are in touch with the Tao within you, if you're in touch with the Brahma within you, you can see the Brahma in the thing that you're looking at in the periphery. But in order to do that, you need to be in touch with the principle of the universe, with the principle of your own self. To the extent to which you are that, to the same extent you are able to see that in other things, and you become Brahmamay. So the whole universe, you become Brahmamay. So you become full of this principle, and that's all you see everywhere. But that is an achievement as a result of your own centering. So it is true that both 10,000 things are there and the Tao is there. But being able, what we are talking here is being able to be one with the Tao, to have it operative so much in you that when you see anything, you see the Tao in it and interact with it as that. Next up is going to be Brian and Penny. Penny.
Okay. I had a question in one of the books that I have, when it was talking about the part about, concentrating, sitting there and trying to focus on one thing. It said that one of the easier ways to do that might be by like chanting the name of God. Is that something that you feel is useful, is helpful?
Yogeshwar?
Yes, in a way, if we are on the path of bhakti, it is really important. And in there you are creating an emotion towards the center. At first it doesn't feel like that, yeah, because when you're doing bhakti, you're like chanting a mantra, or you're doing something at the peripheral, you're saying words with your mouth. But as you concentrate, yeah, you actually channel all your focus towards your emotions. Now, out of that mantra, if it is just for the chanting, it doesn't work. But the creation of the emotion within you towards the center, towards bhakti, that emotion is the important thing. And it does actually work. Like, see, if we want to concentrate on one thing, even though we are working and we want to concentrate on one thing at the peripheral, if we have an emotional attachment towards it, it actually works, helping us to concentrate on it. So that emotional attachment is important towards what you want to attain, what you want to concentrate on. So sometimes concentration becomes boring. Concentration becomes, it's sort of like, why am I doing this all day? Yeah? So when you have an emotional attachment towards it, it doesn't become boring, and you don't feel, why am I doing it all day? Or why should I do it? Those questions don't arise, because when you're emotionally attached towards it, you just do it, and all the emotions, like all that love towards concentration just arises. So chanting can help, but not the chanting for itself, but the chanting, the emotion that the chanting brings out. That helps.
Thank you. Let's take, in connection with that, let us take Connie's question about breath. Connie, could you go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, I'm relatively new to this, so can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
I'm kind of inhibited in talking because I've come in and out of this, so forgive me if I'm off topic. But it sounds like you were talking about meditation when you were talking about keeping the spine in alignment, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you talking? Okay, because I've been meditating for about 30 years, and my concept of meditation, which I can go into a very deep meditation with 2 breaths because I've done it so consistently over the years. So is that bringing me towards, it's more of me not thinking or concentrating, to let go of was my understanding. So I'm not understanding concentration. I might be using the word wrong or differently.
You have put your question beautifully. Thank you. Let me go ahead and put it in my own way, and then I can have Yogeshwar answer it. You know, meditation is a very large area of practice in the Indian tradition. So both, for example, use of sounds, use of breath, use of postures, all of them. And there are many, many other techniques. And as I'm saying, that the idea of concentration is a core idea of India. And it is approached with many, 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 many different tools. The second point I want to make regard to what Connie said is that there are 2 kinds of things. One is mindfulness, where you're watching things, just being aware of things. And second is that there is concentration, where you are directing your attention and keeping your attention on a specific thing. So I will ask that as a question to Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, what is the role of breath in meditation? And what's the difference between mindfulness, or just being aware of all the things that are going on in your consciousness, and concentration?
Yes, so the first question, the importance of breath. So breath in and out, it is actually what brings the energy to each and every cell in our body. So the energy that we get is partly out of food, but without oxygen, we couldn't go more, even beyond some minutes, we couldn't go. But without food, yes, we can go some time. So breath is a very important part of our being itself, our nature. We need oxygen in our body. Now, the amount of oxygen also matters in our body. Another point there is purifying the cells within our body, like to remove the toxins within our body. Another point would be concentrating on the breath. Yes. So when we concentrate on the breath, how it goes out, how we take in the breath, how we take out the breath, it actually, we make a rhythm, we make a pattern, like the intake and the outtake should be the same. So that interval between the in and the out, if we can keep it the same, then what happens is we come to a level of samatva, because we also feel that bliss. It's also talked about in the yoga tradition, whereby you do it so well that you do not even feel it at your nostrils. You don't feel the breath at your nostrils. So at that level of breath, mind, concentration, that you can channel your breath. And you being able to channel your breath also shows how much you can control your mind. Because if we cannot even control something that is within our control, like breath, then it also incapacitates us that it brings a question, if we cannot control our breath, can we control our thoughts, which are even more subtle than breath? So we can take it as steps towards controlling the mind. Now, there's also the second point that you asked about awareness and concentration. So just being aware, yes, you can remove, like just being aware of what is happening or how your breath rhythm is going. That also helps a lot, because when you are aware of how things are happening, you can make them better. You can always make them better because you are aware of how things are happening. Yes. And you will actually make them better automatically. When you're aware, this is my breath, this is what my body needs, and this is how much I am taking right now, and what should be the optimum for me to reach the center, then you will make it better. And now, when you're aware of everything, you can concentrate on one thing. When you are concentrated on your breath, what happens is because you're concentrated on only one point at the periphery, you can be fully aware of that one point. That's what concentration can bring. You can be fully aware of that one point. When you're fully aware of that one point, then you can move your awareness towards the whole peripheral, because you know how to be aware. You get the quality of being aware. So both bring the other. As in the equation, the other will come later. When you are aware, the concentration will come later. When you're concentrated, the awareness will come later. But they should come, they should meet. And that is the optimum experience, when they meet.
Wonderful. Folks, this is a very deep topic. I want to say just a couple of things. Firstly, I want to address Connie's point about the fact that because she's been doing this for a long time, just with 2 breaths, she's able to change her mental state. See, this is the importance of practice. None of this actually works without practice. You have to have a practice of doing it. Second thing is, breath is incredibly powerful idea. It's an incredibly powerful part of who we are. It's a very odd thing. It is, you can voluntarily control it. At the same time, it is involuntary. So there is involuntary, voluntary. Second is that it is going on all the time, not like walking, where you choose to walk or not, but you're breathing all the time. So it's something that is perennial, on which is automatically done, on which you have control. It's also full body experience. It's like it is flowing through you. It is connected with the sound. So a lot of the sound meditation and breath become integrated. And all of it, there are all these practices that you can use for centering. And there is the awareness, like mostly, and this is just a commentary on the way in which meditation is seen in the West. Meditation is mostly seen in the West in just the mindfulness tradition, just the awareness tradition. But there is the concentration tradition in addition to that, kind of connected with that, riding on the top of that. And in the Indian tradition, it is very large. The way in which meditation, the general styles of meditation, schools of meditation, popular in the West, are of the mindfulness kind, and not the concentration kind. So there is this 2 schools, and that's another thing that we would like to explore at as we go along. All right, let's see. Jyoti, you had a question. So folks, if you have questions, go ahead and type an exclamation mark. Jyoti.
Yeah. My question is somewhat related to what I've asked just before everybody else asked. The question is, there are some people, older people, they become very humble when they get to that stage. And they have not necessarily meditated, or they were yogis, or they were just beaten up by life. They had seen too much in life. They have experienced all the negatives and positives, and now they are kind of settled. So how is that different than a person like me who spends quite a bit of time in centering myself by concentrating, by meditating, by praying? I'm also trying to get to the Brahma, and they're also trying to get to the Brahma. So how are two of us different from each other?
I'll give a very short answer because that's a much more kind of wider question than meditation and Dhyan yoga. It has to do with these different yogas and how they are connected. A person who lives a good life, keeps doing the right thing over a lifetime, that is practicing karma yoga, will have a quality of jnana, of bhakti, and of dhyan that gets built in as a result of that. So that's a different path. So though they themselves may not have meditated at all, they will have a calm and peacefulness and humbleness in their heart because all these are connected. So there are multiple paths to the same thing. Next up is Madhav.
I have one observation and one question. So
Please.
the observation is, I was listening to Sam Harris on a podcast, and he was saying, if you just try and sit for 1 minute without moving, you will start to notice how richly, it's a word in Sanskrit or Hindi, I don't know, your mind is. You will get a small itch there. You want to move there. You want to move. It shows how muddied our mind is. So that was the observation. My question is, in these discussions, it's almost like peeling an onion. There's one layer. You peel the layer, you go deeper and deeper and try to find your true self. And one of the layers or two of the layers is this body and mind. So then if we're not this body and mind, then who exactly is trying to get to that Brahman, if that makes sense?
Wonderful. Yogeshwar?
So that's the concept of Dhyan Yoga, whereby you are aware of the body and the mind. Now, when you become aware of something, even outside yourself, yeah, like outside your body, when you're aware that I can look at this and I can change it, then you realize that I am not this. Sure. Now, the same happens with your body and your thoughts and your mind as well. So when you realize how you can change through concentration or through awareness, how you can change your mind, your thoughts, and you can align them in a particular way, or you can align your happiness and your sorrow in a particular way, you actually you peel off that. And then in Dhyan Yoga, what is that there is this concept of Atma. Yes, we are Atma, but what happens around that concept, yeah? Like if we only read the second chapter of Gita, there it's talked about like what the Atma means. But what normally happens is we cling to the
Yogeshwar,
concept so much.
Yogeshwar,
Yeah.
I think there is a paper which is rubbing against your mic.
Is it?
Rubbing
Okay,
against-
sorry.
Okay, yeah, that's much better. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we cling to the concept so much that now actually experiencing that we are different from it is put aside. So what we are trying to do here is, let us try to experience and see. Let's not answer ourselves. Ask the question, who am I? Yes. do not produce an answer from within, because when your mind is tricky, because it is your mind that will give you the answer that I am Atma. You see, like it will also be a thought, I am Atma. So let us try to practice, just be aware of all the thoughts that are going on. And as you practice, as you go inside, you will realize that there's something that is greatly distinct from the body and the mind. So that's something that is distinct from the body, the mind, and your ego as well. So that something is what we would say is the Atma, not what we have built around the concept of Atma, because the concept that we're building is in our mind as well. So we'll try to experience.
Thank you. Thank you. Yogeshwar, the sound, there is something that rubs against the mic. So if you could figure it out, that would be great. Next up is Donna. Donna, you had a question about breath. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to know if there is a specific way that you should breathe.
Okay.
You know, the actual, you know what I mean? Nose, mouth, how much of a count, or how exactly
Got it.
how to do that?
Thank you. Donna, that's a very large question, and there are like many schools of that, but I'll have Yogeshwar answer whatever, in whatever qualified way he wants to answer it. Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
Yeah, as Shrikant said, there's so many ways, and all the different schools explain this in different ways. So in a way, if we can be aware of the optimal amount of breath we need, because you see, there's so many times whereby by controlling our breath, we can control the state of our mind as well. So if we can be aware of the state of our mind, be aware of the amount of breath we are taking in and taking out, just even being aware of that, then we can optimize the breath versus how much our body needs versus the optimal condition of our mind. Now, sometimes that would be really hard, like being aware and figuring out your own configuration of everything. So there are practices that you put in place whereby they say you should take the breath the same amount of time and then leave the breath for the same amount of time. If you take like say 5 seconds taking in the breath, you take 5 seconds taking out the breath. So there are different ways of explaining this. Some actually even say 5 seconds for taking it in, 5 seconds you keep it there, 5 seconds you take it out, and then 5 seconds you leave it out, and then you take it in for 5 seconds again. So everything, whatever is building around this concept is concentration on your breath. Can you control your breath by your own self? That is the main point around all the concepts. Whether you do Anulom Vilom, like these are all yoga concepts, Anulom Vilom, Kapalbhati, whatever you do on the breath, because it is a whole area of breath and even a whole area of postures that can be done. Different times of the day or different mind states that you want. So without delving into it so much, just concentrating and controlling your breath is more important.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, let's, we have one more question, and then let's do 15 through 19. Bharadwaj, go ahead.
So as someone with a bit more of the beginner's mind, I suppose, with very limited experience with concentration and meditation, I've had the sense that there's external sounds. You sit with your eye closed. There's an external sound that comes up, and you kind of can realize that it's an external sound. And sometimes thoughts have the same feeling. I might want to tell myself, let's not get distracted with planning the rest of the day. And moments later, I find myself filled with thoughts about plans for the rest of the day, in the sense that it feels as though I am not authoring my thoughts, and thoughts are being delivered to me in the sense that the sound was delivered to me external to myself. And between those moments where thoughts are not present, there seems to be nothing but emptiness. Now, is that emptiness is what might be referred to as Brahman? Is there any resolution there? Thanks.
Thank you, Bharadwaj. So I really like your question, because that is the actual experience that you will start having once you start actually practicing, that you're aware of physical things, like how the ground feels on your feet. How does your hand resting against your knee, what does that feel like? So there's physical sensations. There are sounds that are all around you that are coming in. There are emotions that you are feeling. There are thoughts that you're going through. And so there is this, full flow of things from the periphery which are coming in. And occasionally there isn't anything, but that's just a state. Brahma refers to something far deeper. It's a metaphysical concept. It is like the principle of the universe itself. And it is something that you have to work at. So it's a different kind of a thing than just nothing currently happening. So let's go ahead and go to the next chapters. That's going to be, we're just going to do 15 through 19. The idea there, it's basically, Yogeshwar has done a very good job of breaking it up. It's called the motionless self, and it actually relates to Bharadwaj's question. Let's see if Penny, are you able to read from 15 to 19? Otherwise, I can read.
Yes.
Go ahead.
If a yogi has perfect control over his mind and struggles continually in this way to unite himself with Brahman, he will come at last to the crowning peace of nirvana, the peace that is in me. Yoga is not for the man who overeats or for him who fasts excessively. It is not for him who sleeps too much or for the keeper of exaggerated vigils. Let a man be moderate in his eating and his recreation, moderately active, moderate in sleep and in wakefulness. He will find that yoga takes away all his unhappiness. When can a man be said to have achieved union with Brahman? When his mind is under perfect control and fed from all desires, so that he becomes absorbed in the Atman and nothing else. The light of a lamp does not flicker in a windless place. That is the simile which describes a yogi of one-pointed mind who meditates upon the Atman.
Thank you. Thank you, Penny. Yogeshwar, please go ahead.
Yunjanevam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah shantim nirvana paramam matsanstham adhigacchati. So doing all these activities of concentration, such a yogi, he will get to such eternal bliss, and it will be internal. It will just come from the core of your being. It is like Gyaneshwar describes, like the sun has risen from the inside. And since you are the sun now, you do not see any darkness. So bliss arises from inside. And since there's nothing else you can see, like you are bliss. So there's no sorrow for you, there's no happiness, or there's no sorrow for you. It's always eternal bliss. You're always in that eternal pool of bliss. So such a person, he gets the eternal bliss that I am also experiencing. That's matsanstham adhigacchati. Natyatnashastu yogosti nachaikanta manashnatah nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naivacharjuna. So now the concept here is not to do anything to, there's a way whereby we eat so much, yeah, and then because we are so much attracted to food, sometimes we do not eat at all because we feel that if we do not eat, we shall not be attracted to the food. But that doesn't actually happen. When we do not eat, what actually happens is we crave the food we are not eating more. Sometimes we do not eat in the state when we are awake. And then we start eating the same food in our dreams. We start dreaming about the food. So both things, even eating too much, because here the eating too much and the eating so little comes from the mind, because the attachments of the mind. Now, the moderation here that is talked about is about the body. Eat as much as the body needs. Do not eat as much as the mind needs, because the mind will sometimes tell you that, or your senses will tell you that, your taste sense will say, oh, it's really delicious, so let me have more. But your body should be the concerning effect here, because you want your body and your peripheral and your center to move towards Brahma. So that take all the energy flows up towards Brahma. In that, what happens is we need that bliss of the body as well. We need that state of the body that is always in one state. You know, if the body is in one state, we can keep the mind in one state. And since our mind is in one state, we have a certain type of thoughts continuously. They do not go up and down always. Now, since the mind is in one state, then we can also see that we are also in one state as well. We can see the core of ourselves. Until we are only delving in the up and downs of the body or the up and downs of the mind, we cannot see the motionless self. So a person who does not eat at all, and a person who eats so much, or a person who sleeps a lot, or a person who actually wakes up, he is always awake and he sleeps only like maybe, let's say, only 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day. Now, you see, the thing is, if it is for him, if it is his nature, then it's fine. Yeah. But if it's not his nature and he's going out of his way and only waking up he's waking up the whole day and only sleeping for like 2-3 hours, then he'll always be dozing off, even when he's supposed to be doing work. And if a person cannot even act properly towards the outside work, how can he act properly towards his mind, towards his thoughts, which are even more subtle than the outside work? If he can't work properly outside, how can he control his workings of the thought? So what should happen is yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. A person who keeps his eating as in one form, at one state, and then a person who keeps his movements, his work as in one state, and a person who has his sleeping and his waking in one state. So for such a person, yoga will have that effect that it will remove all the sorrows from your life. Now, in here, when we say keeping the eating at one step. Now, ahara, yukta ahara. Now, ahara in Sanskrit, it could mean eating, only eating, and ahara, like we can say indriyo ahar, indriyanam ahara. So in that, it also could mean what we take in through the senses. So what we take in through each and every sense, whether it is the ears, whether it's the nose, whether it's the mouth, or whether it's our hands as well, because all of them, like including the five senses and the other five, which are our hands, our legs and everything, keeping each and every of them in control. Like they have one step. They're always in one step. And then even the working out, because now we're not saying that we should sit the whole day. No. Even you're working out, maybe you're going to the gym or you're working out something, or you're a farmer and you're doing some work on the farm. So even that should be maintained over the time. Like over time, it comes to some peace. You always feel peace when you're working. So that yukta cheshta. And then yukta swapna bodhasya. So such, whether you're sleeping according to your nature and you're waking up according to your nature, that actually brings the peace that will keep your mind and your thoughts in one place. Another point I wanted to make here is everybody's nature is different. If I need a sleep of 5 hours in the environment I am right now, some other person will need 6 hours of sleep in the same environment because he is of a different nature. And other times when I myself, if I move to a different environment, I will need more sleep or I'll need less sleep in that different environment. So even from person to person, it differs, and even from situation to situation, from environment to environment, that will differ. Your sleep and your awake. We should sleep that much, whereby when we are awake, we do not feel like dozing off, we do not feel like sleeping. And we should be awake that much that when we want to go to sleep, we actually just go to sleep. We do not need to stay awake when we're on the bed. So that optimum level of experience whereby we can have our sleep and our awakeful states really in control of ourselves, not in control of society, not in control of our attachments towards anything, not in control of our senses, but we have self-control over it. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyeva vatisthate nispraha sarva kamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tada. So when we have all this at an optimal state, so there is an underlying seamlessness between our mind, our body, our thoughts, and our environment as well. When that happens, we can actually, we have that power, we gain that power that we can keep our thoughts towards the center. We can keep our being towards the center. And we're always contemplating and we're always experiencing from the center. So when that happens, when we are experiencing from the center, what happens is nispruha. We do not want anything from the peripheral. So from all the attachments at the peripheral, or attachments from the senses, or attachments to the thoughts, we cling to some thoughts so much. Now, even those attachments towards the thoughts, also those attachments, they just fall away when we are always seated at the center of self. Now, they're giving an example of how that would look like. Yatha deepo nivatastho nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanah. So how would it look like? How would you feel actually? So how you'll experience it? The experience would be of, let's say, a candle we have, yeah? Because deepa would mean one that you've made out of cotton and then you've put it in ghee. But let's take a candle that we know in our everyday lives. So a candle, and then it is put in a place where there is no wind. There is air, but there's no wind. So where there's no wind, we put it in such a place. And then how the candle lights, it will just be in one form. It will not change forms. It won't be moving towards the left. It won't be moving towards the right. It will just be in one form. And it won't be trembling. It will have that motionlessness. It will just be. It doesn't have to move to any part. So such an experience will be felt. So such an experience is felt for a person who has full control over his senses. And control here, we mean when he has that, he doesn't need to go towards the attachments, and the need is always towards the center. So that is the control that we're talking about here. And another thing is, you know, when they're saying yatha dipo nivatas, if I can give another example of it, a more modern example, if we have seen a pendulum and we move it 30 degrees to the right, and it will move 30 degrees to the left as well. Yeah. So the state they're talking about here is just the pendulum being, and it's not moving. Now, what happens is we normally have magnets towards the sides of the pendulum. So that one magnet will pull it towards the left, and then it will move towards the left to the right as well. So that's what happened. That's what's happening with our lives. We get attacked. We get so much attached towards something at the peripheral. Then when we feel that it's not giving us the happiness, we move away from it, and then we're looking for another happiness just at the peripheral. So that will take you left to right in the pendulum. But if none of the attachments is actually attracting you, and you're not moving away from the attachments as well, you're just in the middle, and you're like that pendulum that is not moving. So that's another example how we will conceptualize.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. Folks, if you have any comments or questions about this section, go ahead and type an exclamation mark. What I want to do is that I made a presentation yesterday on, Yogeshwar did a presentation on Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga. And I used a diagram to summarize it. I have a much better, simpler version of the diagram, which I want to share with you. And then we'll open it up for questions and comments, either on that or on what we just talked about. Starting the sharing here. Okay. Oh, can you see the diagram? Very good. All right. So I have simplified the diagram dramatically. Jnana Yoga is all about Atma, the core of your being, trying to understand the Brahma so that it understands that Tattvamasi, you are that. That is Jnana Yoga right here. Karma Yoga is using the best knowledge that you have, your highest knowledge of what you should be, in order to act in the world. So there are there is Atma, Brahma, and Vishwa. Vishwa is the word. So karma is all about using your knowledge, the best knowledge that you have, in order to act on the world. And your bhakti is your bhakti towards your center. So it's relentlessly moving towards the center, love of the center. And it's a loop. The more you do one of them, the more it takes you towards the other. This is the best summary that I have. So let me go ahead and unshare here. And I'm now going to open it up for any comments or any thoughts either on this diagram or on 15 to 19 that we just looked at. Go ahead and type exclamation mark or raise your hand in Zoom if you would like to give your thoughts. Avanik.
I just wanted to say great presentation, and I really got a better understanding of the periphery and how that can be used to get you to the center. In a sense, like that diagram that you just showed, Shrikant, and what Yogeshwar was saying throughout the presentation is that, you know, if you can concentrate on the things in the periphery that are going to bring you closer to the center, it's really great. And that's the goal. That's where we're trying to get to, is our center. And I really loved overall how it was talked about that, you know, once you're getting to your center, that all the things that do not lead you there or are not coming from your center just fade away. I remember hearing it in the other meetups, but I really got a better understanding of it tonight. So thank you both. It was great.
Thank you, Avanik. Folks, Yasuhiko Kimura, my friend, he has found a translation, English translation of Nyaneshwar, which is available on Amazon in the US. There is a Kindle version for like $8 or something like that. I have not checked the translation myself, but in any case, this is so good. Nyaneshwar is so good that I would recommend just getting it, maybe multiple translations. It will help you a great deal. Nyaneshwar, so I want to say something about Nyaneshwar. The thing I love about Nyaneshwar is that he was trying to communicate Gita to the masses who could not read and write. For that purpose, he started with Gita and translated it into Marathi, but he did not just translate it, he did a commentary on it. So this is the version that I have, which is actually so Gita itself is, I think, 700 verses. Nyaneshwari is about 9,000 verses. What he's doing is that he's trying to make Gita accessible to anybody who wants it. And the way he presents it is that he presents the entire context of the Krishna-Arjun dialogue. He keeps on coming back to this core idea of Advaita, that you are that, in so many different ways, using so many different metaphors, that after a while it is inescapable. You get it from so many different angles, and they all mesh together so that slowly you get the concept. I am telling you that the concepts in Gita are quite different from the Western concepts. So if you use just the Western concepts to understand things that are being said, you will probably be left with only Western things, and you will not get to the core. So that's why this deep immersion in Gita is very helpful. And I strongly suspect that Nyaneshwar is going to be the best commentary to talk to a Western audience for several reasons. Firstly, it is, Yogeshwar is the one who pointed this out, that the Western audience, it's not really, you can't reach them through Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga as much. Jnana Yoga is the best way of, and Jnana Yoga is about who am I? What is the center? What is the center axis? Trying to do that. And that is Nyaneshwar's focus. Nyaneshwar is primarily, he's doing that. He's showing you the knowledge of the center, knowledge of Atma and Brahma. Secondly, he does it in an integrative way. He's full of bhakti, he's full of karma, he has this tremendous joy and tremendous, it's like blessing the whole world is his whole approach to this. So I strongly recommend getting this translation. I will keep looking for more translations, and I will offer them all to you. But this one I would get simply because it is in English. It is very easily accessible through Kindle or copy. So, there are copies available, and you would be able to get a start on this, and it will really supplement your. What I find is that the Naneshwari has Gita in it, so it will be like one line of Gita and 20 lines of commentary on that, explaining what it means and giving not just the literal meaning, but actually, if you were to explain this to a child, what would you say? If you're trying to explain it to somebody who has never read any philosophy, how would you communicate that? That's what he's trying to do. So it is something really, really remarkable. So I would recommend it highly. So Doug is here. So let me ask Doug. Hi, Doug. Can you speak?
Hello. Well, maybe not so much tonight. Saturdays, I've had a busy day, and
Sure.
then I had connection problems, as you
Sure,
saw.
no problem. No problem. I just wanted to ask you if you wanted to give any comments on Dhyana Yoga or meditation, but if you can't, that's fine too.
Well, the meditation, I think it's mostly you covered, even what little I've heard since I came in the sense of that finding the center where the things outside sort of grow still like an ocean. A lot of stuff's coming into you, but it's not really disturbing you. I find that a very important thing to hold on to in my life, and I don't always do it consistently. But
wonderful. Thank you, Doug. Let's see. Does Yogeshwar have any final comments?
Not really. Just
okay.
I've explained everything that I could in the Gita, in the commentaries.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yogeshwar. It's really amazing. I think these meetups are going very well, and that's why I was eager to double up on it. So we're going to be doing this Friday nights and Saturday nights. We will go through the Gita as fast as we can by being as thorough as we need to be. So we will take all the time we need. At the same time, we'll keep on making progress. I have all kinds of interesting things in my back pocket that I want to get to, which we won't be doing today. The thing that I would recommend is look for Nar and Narayan. Okay, so I'm going to type Nar and Narayan. And you can just look at the entry of this in Wikipedia. It tells you about the Arjuna and Krishna relationship. This is considered, Narayan is considered to be an avatar of Vishnu, but there are two. There is the man, Nar, and Narayan, God, as a twin, born as a twin. And it's really fascinating. And that's basically, it's considered to be an earlier avatar of Arjuna and Krishna. So we'll go from there. All right, folks, thank you very much. Tomorrow we are going through Tao Te Ching at 8 p.m. So hope you can make it. Otherwise, the next Gita is going to be on next Friday and next Saturday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you very much, everybody.
What section are we reading next week?
We are starting from, we went up to 19 today. So we'll go from 20 to the end.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody.